But if yesterday and the day before were just normal activity, just what planes do, well, where are all the other lines? Should be lines all across the sky, right? Team Goyim, baby. We are the best. We, Team Goyim, are the best. That's okay. I'll go. What's happening? Dumbass kids, man. Didn't plug the phone in last night, so now the phone's dead. Team Goyim. That's us. That's not them. The video evidence is everywhere. It's everywhere what they're doing. It's everywhere how they feel. I just shared another video on my Facebook page where there's a guy claiming to be IDF and flat out saying, I don't care about the children. We bomb them all. We bomb them all. We kill them all. Over and over again. I shared another video. Same interviewer asking a female what she thinks, and she's saying the same. I don't give a fuck. Bomb them all. Fuck those kids. Bomb them all. We were upset they won't let us call you fucker anymore. Good morning, Matt. Isn't it crazy what's happening? Isn't it crazy how obvious all this shit is, and there's still, there's still any sort of argument whatsoever? What is everybody, what do you think is the next step? What do you think the next step is? It's us. Good morning, Jeffrey. We're witnessing the craziest moments in history. As far as we know, this is the craziest shit that's ever happened. You can hear stories about crusades and all kinds of other dumb shit, but that doesn't mean it's true. Just because the narrative says that's what it is, it doesn't mean it's true. And things like you hear about the Napoleonic Wars and things like that. And they sound all grand and boisterous, initially. But as soon as you start asking questions like, how did they feed all those people? How did they feed all of those hundreds of thousands of soldiers? When they transported, when they moved from place to place, how did they move from place to place? And how did they accommodate that? How did they, hundreds of thousands of soldiers moving in one place or another, traveling large distances? And that same narrative applies to everything. The Civil War, you hear these stories about the Civil War that they sound nice, or at least they don't sound nice, but they sound like huge. They sound big. They sound incredible, but they just don't make any sense. While they block every good comment regardless of what I say. Yeah. Think about that. Do you think that's really bots doing that? Do you think there's really bots doing that shit in real time? You know, sure, they have bots that monitor a lot of shit, but when it comes to my page, it has to be human, right? There has to be human interference for it to be happening in real time like this. This is all just incredible. You know, I keep looking for, like, to me, what's happening is obvious. And, you know, who's doing it is obvious, all that part. Oh, they blocked our last 2 comments on what's next. Really? Like I keep telling you guys, use numbers for vowels. If the words that have numbers in the vowel for the vowels still get blocked, then you know it's not AI. What makes you think it's AI? I mean, what makes you think you know? I don't think I know any of this stuff, like, as far as the behind the scenes goes. I think it looks obvious and whatnot. But as far as us knowing, we don't know. We just know what they want us to know. Too quick. TOO. You know, the thing is, I've been saying all these things for years now. And I was told it was not what I was saying. It had to be other things. But now that you see, it's like, you realize, like, anything else could have happened and I would have been wrong. China could have attacked. Japan could have attacked. African this, that, and the other country could have attacked. Anything anyone else could have attacked and I would have been wrong. But instead, I've been right. And when it comes to what the future is, I don't know. It's scary because it looks like it's, you know, Roundup kind of situation. But I'm always looking for people to, you know, argue against what I'm saying. Argue for the other side. Tell me why the other side is good. Like, I've never seen it. You see the videos of the supposed IDF soldiers or whatever, and they never talk about, we are good because we build schools and we help this and we do that. They're like, they just brag about being monsters and they're proud of it. And here we go. We have another one of these genocidal pedos who is going to come here. Like, it's funny how they're so stupid that they just don't know how to do this any other way. They don't know how to be anything but bullies. And if you don't cower to their bullying and you come at them with intelligence, they just say stupid shit. You know, you call me a pedo when I'm the one that's made the page the life of saying that we should be killing pedos. That's not what you do. You don't even deny that you're a pedo. But you come in and you try to stop the guy that says we should kill pedos, we should wipe the map of the, you know, get rid of the cult, you know, we should end the slavery, end the genocide. And all you're doing by wrongly calling me the same things I call you is showing me that what I do hurts you. You're trying to hurt me back. And you can't come up with anything legitimate, so you just start saying stupid shit. And this is how they operate. They're just not smart. I wish people would understand that. You know, we've been foolishly led to believe that they are among the smartest people in the world because, well, they're the doctors and they're the lawyers and all the, you know, the high-ranking positions. Not realizing it, they're just stupid. It's just stupid, but it's nepotism. They get put in that place. Especially when it comes to government officials and whatnot. They're just idiots. That's why you don't see any of them making reasonable arguments or having any sort of decent conversations. Because they're stupid. Just look at their choice of dress. Look how stupid they look. They think that looks good. You ever notice how state patrollers, state troopers, they look the same? They just don't, it's different colors, but they have the same goofy hat. You know, they have the same goofy look about them. What I think is really shocking too is how, you know, I've always asked this question, like, who are the soldiers? Who are the people that get brought in to violently attack peaceful protesters? Have you guys ever met anyone that says, yeah, in my day job, I'm one of those guys who puts on all black and I go and I beat peaceful protest? You ever met anybody like that? I've never met anyone in that position. And it makes you wonder who they actually are, where they're from. Because seriously, even if you're if you're a lawman, right? You're somebody who's made a career of being a professional police officer or whatever. Your stated, motivation is that you believe in the rule of law and that, the laws should be followed and, a just society and all this other bullshit, right? So then how are you made to be someone that attacks people following the law? I mean, I watch a lot of First Amendment guys, and those guys are all heroes. Those guys have balls I wish I had. I couldn't do that shit. I don't want to go to jail. I mean, I really want to do it, believe me. I really want to do it and go head to head with a bunch of stupid ass fucking cops and make them look stupid. But I can't. Look at how, now see, we're going to have, now we have, as always, it's like the same, they're stupid. Like I keep telling you, they're stupid. They don't have the ability to address what's being said. So, hey, let's talk about submarines instead. This guy doesn't believe submarines are real. So that's way more important than genocide, than pedophilia, than slavery, than, the crooked cops and all that shit. It's not free Palestine. I believe me, I want the Palestinians to have life and all that stuff. But the war cry is not free Palestine. Because how do you say free Palestine to the Iranians? How do you say free Palestine to the Lebanese, to the Yemeni, to the Syrians, to all these other countries that the bad guys are attacking? It's not even that bad guy land is the thing. It's, people will say whatever, it's not even, bad guy land is just an idea. The boundaries of bad guy land, they change constantly. So it's not an actual thing that you can be against. The real rallying cry, free the U.S. from AIPAC, that's closer. That's a much closer one. But the reality is, it's end the cult. The cult. Just because you hear this nonsense, somebody says, well, I know some good ones. I know some ones that are nice to my face. That doesn't mean that they're good. That doesn't mean, that just means they're saying what they need to say to not feel the brunt. The reality is, if you really are a good person, you will go, hey, you know what? I know I've belonged to this cult my whole life, but this cult is just horrible. It's just a disgusting, genocidal, pedophilic, disgusting cult. And I can be a good person without being attached to the cult. That's what the difference is. But when we're a man, crazy. You're so arrogant, and you always try to make things about you because you really want to be me or be the star, and you can't be. So you're constantly trying to pat yourself on the back. But what you did was stupid. What you did wasn't protest. But I don't care. That's dumb. You don't foolishly put yourself in those positions to where they can Sandra Bland you. You guys remember Sandra Bland? Right? Isn't it weird how that Sandra Bland story just completely disappeared? Why does nobody talk about Sandra Bland anymore? Because they provided a video, a year later or some shit, that supposedly showed someone that looked like her moving around a little bit in the police state, but it didn't show anything else. It didn't show her supposedly offing herself or dying or whatever. We beat the court case because we were right. Sure. Good for you, dude. You love you. But where is the outcry for Sandra Bland? That's one of the worst, most egregious examples of the police state system violence, whatever you want to call it, it's commonplace for them. Ooh. Are we taking the video? Are we taking the views down? Am I getting too many likes too quickly? Don't forget to like, share, and sub. Even though they don't like it and they fuck with my feed when you do, show them. Show them that you're not a part of this. Yeah. But again, where's Sandra Bland's story? How did that story just get disappeared so quick? That's the thing, is so many people believe that like George Floyd, right? The George Floyd story was sure strange. And the fact that it became a worldwide story isn't because it's just naturally how we operate. We had nothing to do with it. George Floyd was how they dealt with the fact that the weather was getting nicer. And, the COVID scare tactic bullshit needed a reprise for a few months so that flu season could come back around, because they couldn't successfully push COVID while nobody was getting sick. So they came up with George Floyd, and it accidentally had more of an impact than they thought. Like, it was the craziest thing to me. It's the first time I ever saw it. When you saw the George Floyd protest, it was the first time you ever saw something where 60% of the protest audience was white. And I'm sure that freaked them out. White people aren't supposed to stand up like this. What the fuck? They never have before. Why are they standing up like this now? Morning. And then when George Floyd started to get like too much for them to handle, they gave us the Brooks story, and the Blake story to bring things back down. Do you guys remember that? You know, I can't remember which one was which. Brooks was in Atlanta, or Blake. Either one was in Atlanta, one was, I think, in Minnesota. But the one in Atlanta was the guy was passed out in the drive-thru. The white cops came up, got him, pulled him out of the car, did everything by the book. They did it exactly how you're supposed to do it in that situation. The guy grabbed one of their tasers and ran, so they shot him, as they should. As they absolutely fucking should have. But then the idiots, they burnt down the Wendy's, and, you know, everybody made this big deal about, this guy was, you know, he was a multi-time felon who was drunk, passed out in a drive-thru, then grabbed a fucking taser and ran off. What do you think the cops are supposed to do? They're supposed to let him go attack some civilian to try to get away? Like, it's just stupid. There is no blanket, oh, I hate the cops kind of bullshit. I don't. Kyle Rittenhouse helped bring the Trump administration back around too. I don't remember who Kyle Rittenhouse was. But then you had the Blake story, which was, again, a black guy. There was a conflict. The video was taken from across the street and up on like the second story, so you're looking down at it. The people were called to the cops were called to a disturbance. They came. The guy won't listen. They end up pulling out their guns and say, "Hey man, stop!" And he's acting all puffing up big and bad. He walks around the front of his car. They're yelling at him the whole time, "Get down!" They're not doing anything. He goes around to the driver's side, opens up the driver's door, and reaches in for something. So they shot him, and they shot him like 7 times in the back, and he supposedly survived. But these were knucklehead stories. These were stories that the average white person can't get behind. How could you get behind, you know, oh, of course you shoot that fucking guy. He provides, especially the one that grabbed the taser and, you know, ran off. You want him to run up to your car with your kids in the back? But that brought the George Floyd fervor back down because, you know, they added these 2 stories that they tried to tie to it. Like anybody with their right mind would see that and associate the George Floyd thing with the Brooks and Blake story. But that's how they operated. The one who killed 4 people who supposedly attacked him when it was in cold blood during a protest, I believe, in Minnesota. Yeah, I don't know that one. You know, I stopped watching news. COVID killed it. I was somebody who watched the news, and quite a bit of it. I used to watch the morning news every day. Not because I believed the news, but because I wanted to know what they wanted us to know. The news was the programming, so I wanted to know what the average Goyim knew. What the average Goyim was supposed to know. And so I would watch the news every day just to see what they would say. But then when COVID came around, it was literally just, it was like they were trying to convince us of it. When it's real, you don't have to convince the people. We're generally intelligent. You know? So convincing us of something is what you do when what you're saying isn't true. And that's what, you know, all the COVID broadcast bullshit was about. It's the same thing with the bad guys situation. If the bad guys were actually doing the right thing, they wouldn't have to keep telling us they are. We would see it. You know, the average person sees Iran and they might not be, you know, a big Iran guy, but when you see what's happening, how can you not stand with Iran? How do you, you know, how do you say Iran should just allow themselves to be attacked and not respond and, you know, bow down to the inferior bad guy system that is, you know, pulling the strings? Like, it's just stupid. And you'll see it like repeatedly where you see, you know, Iran has been months away from a nuclear weapon for decades. There are lots of videos out there that show the news consistently saying the same shit. You know, consistently saying, you know, Iran is a month away, could be a month away. Iran could be, Iran. You know, they try their damnedest to push that narrative for such a long time because that's what Netanyahu wanted. They create this bad guy Iran system because they don't have anything to actually show you. They don't have anything to prove that Iran is the bad guy in any way. And anybody that's reasonable or looks at things even slightly reasonably can see the psychopaths that the bad guys are. We're up against literal psychopaths. It's a psychopathic cult. Iran literally tells you that, ha ha ha. Like that again. That's you thought I'm gonna type this out because this will get him, and then you typed it. Hopefully made sure it was all spelled right, and then hit enter. Like you honestly thought that would be a good thing? What control does Iran have over my perspective on anything? 100% facts, bro. Yeah. The Gans. What are you, from Michigan? The Gans. I haven't heard people call it the Gans in a long time. I got them Gannies. Like, it's just such a strange, you know, it's strange to be in this position. It's strange to be right. For such a long time, I was on the fringe, and I was right, but it was harder to prove it because, you know, it just wasn't on TV every day, all day long. Nowadays, how do you support bad guy land even slightly? The whole October 7th thing is a bullshit false flag. And it seems like there's another one. About the man in this feed, they need to keep him quiet. You know, you can either, if you believe that, that's one thing, or you could be making jokes, that's another, but it doesn't, you know, you can't explain what happens in any better way. Oh, look. Right on target. Right over my house, like they always are. But it's the same shit with that. How does anyone in their right mind look up, see the fucking nasty trail coming off of the plane that's way higher than commercial airlines fly, and think, oh, that's nothing. That's just what planes do. How do you do that? Like, it's one thing if you're, you know, you've only been alive since like 1996, 97, when it really started happening. But anyone my age or older, how do you see that and not remember that didn't happen when we were younger? And it literally doesn't make sense. The only time that planes do that is when you go to an air show where they specifically modify the planes so that they can make little pictures in the sky. But you see this and you just think, oh, well, it's nothing. It's nothing. If you look into it, they flat out tell you what they're doing. It's stratospheric aerosol injection to combat global warming and marine cloud brightening. These are two very, very, very it's well established that those things exist. Marine cloud brightening and stratospheric aerosol injection. You don't have to search real hard. You don't have to look deep. All you got to do is pull up Wikipedia. And I love how the clowns on here will act like Wikipedia isn't a good source. You know? Wikipedia is, it's like if back in the day you would have brought something up because you looked in the encyclopedia. And people were like, oh, you're looking in the encyclopedia? Not saying it's all true, but it's what they want us to know. It's the truth they want us to know. And Wikipedia flat out tells you everything that's going on. I highly suggest people look up Team Jorge on Wikipedia, where it flat out tells you that they are a bad guy, black ops organization, well-funded bad guy, black ops organization that specializes in troll farms. Interference. It's geoengineering. Had your full dose of stupid pills today. See, look at this is how they do it. So I'm stupid for thinking planes probably shouldn't be doing that. I'm stupid because I don't think bad guy land should be allowed to commit genocide. I'm stupid because I think we should kill pedos. You gotta love it. You have your own three-ring circus in Canada, and now you're host the world event of idiots. Yeah. Like this is somebody is trying to talk shit about my intelligence and just said that statement. You have your own three-ring circus in Canada, and now you're host the world of idiots. Really? I was gonna say I'm not in Canada. I just don't, what does it take? What does it take for people to, I mean, I think everybody sees it. I don't think it's a lack of people seeing it. I think it's a lack of people thinking they're allowed to talk about it. Because all you've ever been told is that you're not allowed to talk about them. Good or bad, you're not even supposed to say their identifier. I remember back in the 80s, they would have 10 planes in formation making words in the sky, turning on and off their trail. Still happens. Go to any air show and you'll see skywriting. It's a thing. The fact is, they've been able to drop shit out of planes since they started flying planes. Dropping something out of a plane isn't that difficult. If you agree, like, share, and sub. If you don't agree, like, share, and sub. Do whatever. Hit the dislike button. Do whatever you gotta do. But it's like, I keep wondering, like, I ask people, okay, so what would it take for you to acknowledge something? What does it take for you to see it for what it is? What do you require? Is it that you require a stamped letter from the government saying, we the government acknowledge that this is true, blah, blah, something like that? Is that what it takes? I can't imagine how much more evidence you need. For me personally, I grew up in the same environment all of you did. Well, not the younger people, because the younger people don't get the same level of propaganda we got when my wife and I were growing up. You know, when we were growing up, every single year you would have, in your history class, you would have a month-long lesson on World War II, the Holocaust, and how, you know, you can just take it, and how, you know, we have to coddle them and make them, you know, we're not allowed to call out their bullshit. They still wouldn't believe it. It's true. But that's what I'm saying. Like, what would it take? Why do you believe what you do believe? Will you bring it down when you're done? You know, like I for one, I cannot understand why anybody supports Trump. Okay, I can't say that. If you're a racist, bigot, homophobic, sexist, you know, white piece of shit, I guess I can see why you would support Trump. But even then, I you know, at the end of the day, all of the racism stuff, all of the white power stuff, well, he's taking your tax dollars and sending them to a foreign country. And he's literally, like, all of the America First people, Trump is destroying the First Amendment to the Constitution, the First Amendment, the freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom of assembly protest, freedom of religion, the freedom to redress your government grievances with your government, and the freedom of press. He's literally attacking all of those things. Like, don't you enjoy your free speech? Why are you so okay with him destroying free speech? Why are you so okay with American kids in college being arrested for doing what college kids do? For speaking up? Like, the American First people should be the first people calling him out. All the people that voted him in should be the first ones calling him out, because they believed the rhetoric, and then they were the ones that were lied to. The people didn't vote him in. Nobody believed him to begin with. But all of you that voted him in, you believed his bullshit. You believed he was going to slash the gas prices and food prices in half. You believed that he could end all the wars with one phone call. There were no wars during Biden's time. There was no wars during Biden's time. Like, you should be the ones that feel the most, you know, disappointed and backstabbed. And yet, you know, your average Trumpanzee, if you start asking them questions about it, they just crumble. Because, you know, the real foundation of their support is racism. You know, they're just racist white guys who were really, really bothered by the fact that a halfie was the most powerful man in the country for 8 years. Tell me what great thing Biden did. See, this is your average Trumpanzee sort of. You can see how it's the same thing as the bad guys. Like, oh, well, what are they doing? Well, you're talking about what we're doing, but what about what they did? They did this. What about them? What about that? This is the you know, the quintessential stupid person argument. Because not one at any point have I sat here and, you know, touted how great Biden was or anything like that. I'm not dumb enough to fall for pick one of two choices. Right? You just acting like a child. You just acting like a child. I should answer for some statement that I didn't make because you can't defend your own beliefs. See, this is what they always do. They love to bring up Biden like you're dumb enough, you know, oh, I'm dumb enough to fall for one side, so why don't you fall for one side? You know, Biden's a piece of shit too. They're all pieces of shit. But just like your average Christian, you know how Christians think that every single religion is crazy? 3,000 other religions and blah, blah, blah. If they're all wrong and they're crazy, how could they possibly believe that, yeah, God's up in the sky and made a baby in the manger and blah, blah. They believe their shit. Well, just like you think all those other ones are bad, I think all those other ones are bad and yours. Just like the average Trumpanzee thinks all the other presidents were bad, you know, they're all the same. It's all the same bullshit. I thought Trump was going to get rid of the Federal Reserve and drain the swamp in his first term. We got porked. So why did you think that way, though? Oh, look, John Johnson's going to run away with his tail between his legs because his only argument was called out for the stupidity it is, and he can't make any reasonable arguments. When you ask a Trumpanzee why they support Trump, they immediately say, what about Biden? What did Biden do? What does that have to do with any of it? What did your guy do? Why is your guy the good guy? This is, you know, it's the same shit. You can tell it's the same. It's either the same people or the same mentality that is on both sides of this. You know, the bad guy side, the Trump side, the gay stuff, all of it. It's just, and it's fascinating, you know, because I can bring up lots of reasons why you shouldn't support Trump. How come you can't proudly bring up things that he's done and be like, what about this? Well, what about that? Like, how come they can't do that if there was no, if he was really as good as they say? We need Jesus, no side. Oh my God, how stupid. Even dumber are the Christians, man. You know, the dumb Christians who don't even understand, like, they've been tricked into believing in a system where they aren't even the number one group in their own system. They're the second tier group in their own structure. Which is weird because I always ask the Christians, if you're not one of God's chosen people, then what are you? Because, you know, most Christians don't know their Bible anyway. I mean, it's just fucking stupid. But they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. We are all people. Yeah, sure we are. The God that does nothing. The God that literally watches clergy rape children consistently and does nothing about it. Okay. And then here we go again, another typical Trumpanzee. MAGA 2028 to avoid morons like this. Really, that's the best you can come up with. They just say stupid things. They literally have nothing good to say. They have no real argument. They just, it's like pull cord responses, you know? Because they know how stupid they are, because they know how ill-equipped they are, and they just, nope, they're sleeping, go. Stop picking your butt. Okay, I see. The bad guy got jokes like the German had the last laugh. It's more stupid. There is free will. The devil exists. So if it's free will, then I guess the devil's not doing it. But how can you have God's plan and free will? How does that work? If everything is a part of God's plan, then free will isn't a thing. Oh, me and my wife. Hello, no, God. You gotta love how they just say stupid shit. That's your argument, huh? Why your God watches the clergy rape children all the time? Why your God is just watching as a genocide of Christians is taking place, because a lot of the Palestinians are Christians. Like, it's just so stupid. And it's crazy again how they just avoid the facts. What about the part where you're not even the chosen group in your own religion? You've been tricked into believing that the bad guys in your Bible, the ones that killed your superhero who also happen to be your Christian God's only kid, are also your Christian God's favorite chosen people. Do you guys, like, how does that make sense to you? Yep, my brain is broken. I just love the comments, man. I love it because you see how fucking inept all these idiots are. Right? They can't make reasonable arguments, so it turns into some middle school playground. Well, you're stupid. Well, like, it's funny. Everyone has the right to do what they want 100%. That's for damn sure. What's up, guys? You still fucking around? Yup, crazy. All right, now the same question about being a Muslim. Why for your own stuff, so you keep trying to distract and bring things? Isn't that funny how that works? And you just see example after example of it. They're so stupid. They're so well programmed to be stupid that they literally do the same thing over and over again without realizing that they're doing it. I can't make any reasonable arguments for Christianity, so I'm going to bring up Islam. Like, it's funny. Just because you feel passionate about it doesn't make it right or wrong. It's just your opinion. Yeah, to some degree. I mean, when those opinions are based in facts, though, facts should be a really important thing to people. People should absolutely need facts. You should require evidence before you assign yourself an identity. And by assigning yourself this identity, you then support whatever that identity tells you to support. It's like those dumbasses, I pledge allegiance to a flag. Well, what if that flag represents terrible things? Are you still going to pledge allegiance to it? He's full of anger. I pray God touches his heart. See? Look at the clown show. There's a Trumpanzee for you. Just like Greta's full of anger. Yeah, guess what? I'm angry with the idea that your organization hides behind God and stuff like that so they can molest children and rape children and traffic children. Yeah, that bothers me a lot. Strange how it doesn't bother you, though. The way you like to carry yourselves, Muslims wouldn't have anything to do with it? Who gives a shit? Dumb Christians have to keep saying the same dumb things. Yep. You have to love how, like, seriously, the Trumpanzee is so stupid. They can't come in here and be like, wow, this guy is making some points. I better come in here and make some opposite points. I better come in here and say some intelligent shit. Instead, he's MAGA. Nothing better than your tax dollars being sent to a foreign country to commit genocide against children. I mean, just the whole MAGA thing, the maggots thing. It's a fucking old KKK saying. Denying that it's racism is the stupidity that they need to have. You want to make Trumpanzees run away? Bring up the fact that he lost the first election by 2.7 million votes. 2,700,000 more people voted for Hillary. And the swamp that he promised to drain and didn't put him in anyway. Bring up his association with Epstein and how they were best buddies for such a long time. And then it was the Trump administration that covered up his death after they found all the tapes and shit like that, and they hid him from us. Or most importantly, bring up the fact that it was the Trump presidency that locked us down and cost so many people their livelihoods, their houses, their businesses, their lives. It was the Trump presidency that gave us COVID. But they don't ever want to address those things. Oh man, it sounds like you didn't make them. It sounds like you didn't make it in the military, boy. Why would I ever join the military? Like, see what I mean? They have to keep coming up with their own shit. Nobody's talking about what they keep talking about, but they keep bringing it up because they can't argue against what I'm saying. Like, see how I read their comments and then I address it by making them look stupid, they don't bring up anything I'm saying because they can't. It's just more and more stupidity. What's up, Dookie boy? How you feeling? Tall? Jesus Christ, you did it again, dude. Jesus Christ. You haven't said anything. Man having a manic episode. Sure, buddy. See, this is what I mean. Like, look at how dumb they are. Why doesn't somebody come in and start listing off Trump's accomplishments? What are you doing this past time? You're talking about Trump, and then you're cussing. You like cussing God more. Trump pansies are stupid. They put themselves in boxes where they got tunnel vision. That's because they're stupid. They're absolutely stupid. You know, you could be a smart person all day. You could be somebody that can figure out puzzles and shit like that. But if you've been programmed to say stupid things and then you repeat them, you're stupid. It's just that simple. Trump is so bad, I'd rather have an elderly nursing home. Yeah, it's pretty true. Just needs to go home and change tampon. Yep, he needs to go home and change his tampon. That's how stupid a Trumpanzee is. This is the same type. The guy that says that kind of stuff is the same type of guy that gets mad when you say that kind of stuff to him. You know? That's why he's saying it. None of these guys are coming up with anything new. All of these guys are repeating something they heard someone else say and it hurt their feelings. So now they're trying to say it back. Snowflake. Whatever, snowflake. Well, you haven't said anything. You're straight up inspiring. You go around saying we are dumb, but you can't say where COVID came from. I can't say where COVID came from. Okay. COVID came from the media, you dumbass. And it's all bad guy stuff. It's not, you could try to say it's... So let's go back to the military games that nobody knew about, nobody heard about, that took place in August of 2019, that started on the same day what was it called? Event 201 or whatever it was called. Started the same day that thing happened here, but the military games where 4 American soldiers came down with COVID-like symptoms, were taken to the hospital where they were then released, and then shortly after, supposedly, COVID started spreading. I mean, it's a fucking joke. Angry, not making any points, blah, blah, blah. Go around calling people stupid, but you say Trump started COVID. Did you guys hear me say Trump started COVID? Did you guys hear me say that the actor Trump started COVID? See what I mean? They can't actually make reasonable arguments or argue what's being said, so they just say stupid shit. You sound like blah, blah. You have no impulse control, bro. Your image is the effort you put into life yourself. Yep, I'm full of anger. Yes, I am extremely angry at pedophilia, genocide, and slavery. Apparently you're not. You're doing this thing. Came from China. Right, it came from China because Trump said so. Yep. Well poisoning channel. Well, I mean, you want to talk about well poisoning? There's only one group associated with poisoning wells. Who cares about Trump? Go do something good. Now I should stop talking about this and go do something else. Look at how desperate these dumbasses are to try to get me to stop talking about these things. Like, I'm the dumbass for talking about it, not you, the dumbass, for trolling while watching and crying. No, I'm the bad guy for talking about it. At least I'm actually producing. At least I'm actually doing something. You're just some fake ass and most of these are just fake profile bots. That's all it is. It's just the same stupid nonsense. Teach people about the Rad Corporation, Zohar, Isabel, teach people about Unit 8200 and the TAL pilot program. the thing about all those programs and all those different things is that you have to break people's, association and allegiance to that system. If they don't have that break initially, then they're not going to see what needs to be seen. They'll just see what they want to see, or they just won't do it. But until people realize who runs all those programs, who the head of all those corporations are, and what their allegiance is, it won't matter that a certain country owns the U.S. critical infrastructure, including Microsoft core coding. That's what we try to do. We try to get people to look at bad guy land. Are you liberal? Do I believe people should have liberties? It's funny how when you break down what that term means, are you opposed to people having liberties? I'm sure you're one of those white guys who's only opposed to people having liberties that go against what you like. You still want to have your liberties. They pry this gun out my cold dead hands. Like the only time you ever hear people say, protect our religious freedoms, is when it's Christians who aren't getting their way. Then they start crying that their religious freedoms are being infringed upon. Yep, I'm a joke. You understand that I'm just self-reflecting. Yep, because, I run big pedophile networks. I commit genocide. I secretly control the government. Yep, that's me. The joke is how mad you are. Why be mad at something you can't change? The past. Ooh, you believe, like you base your whole life on the past, right? On some bullshit narrative that is clearly chosen. Like the funniest thing is about Christians is they clearly don't know their Bible. The Bible mentions Gentiles periodically, but the Bible is all bad guys. It's a bad guy. All the characters are bad guys. All the stories are bad guy stories. Like, it's just silly how stupid you guys are. Oh, yeah. You must have forgot about the military they put inside parking ramps. What are you even saying? Yep, there's money, you're homeless. Yep, now I'm homeless. Like, see, look at how angry they are. They know that they're too stupid to have an intellectual debate and actually bring something to the table. They don't have anything. Their gun has only blanks in it. And they just keep firing off. Being like, why isn't this hitting anything? It's blanks, dumbass. You don't have any arguments. That's why you keep trying to make it about me instead of making it about the bigger picture. Oh, this is the only way I can get people. Yep, this is it. I can get people to watch me. If I really wanted viewers and I just wanted attention, why wouldn't I just sell Jesus? Why wouldn't I be pushing the Jesus narrative? That's a time-tested, proven thing that I could make a lot of money doing. If it was just about attention, shouldn't I just push Jesus? Wouldn't that be so much easier than having to deal with fake-ass bot clowns all day? But again, you see how it's being said instead of just coming up with some crazy nonsense? Yeah, well Trump supporters, they like to put their heads literally in the ground and then spin around while they're farting. I got you. You see what I said there? I said you like to stick your head in the ground and spin around while you're farting. Why aren't you addressing that? Why aren't you? So stupid. Democrats telling men they can play in women's sports. Yeah, that's what it is. While trying to saying they are protecting their abortion rights. Do the Democrats really? Right. Oh, so stupid. You're so stupid. You're the same person that would vehemently oppose a trans league. If there was a league created for trans people, then that would. But you're pushing this idea like women's sports aren't a joke. Women's sports are a joke to begin with. Why would anybody want to watch women's sports? You want to watch inferior athletes do an inferior job, especially when it comes to shit like the WNBA? The WNBA is a fucking joke. And because I'm all about equality, I'm going to say it. Equality isn't that we just pretend like you're good enough because you're girls. Equality is calling you out for putting out an inferior product and then wanting everybody to pretend like it's not. This is why I'm homeless. I am definitely homeless. Homeless guy walking around a neighborhood with a phone. Yep. Sounds like that letting by women's rights is violating female rights. Yeah, well, yes. But what does that have to do with the bad guys committing genocide? Like, if you're dumb enough to fall for Republican, Democrat, you're so far beneath me, it's hard for me to even pay attention to you. Yeah, all people do here is repeat that they heard blah, 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 blah. Yeah, karma working on this guy. This guy is insisting karma because he doesn't know what karma is, because he's just a dumb white guy who thinks karma is like a do unto others thing that has real-time effects, when he doesn't even know what fucking karma is. For all you dumbasses who misuse the term karma, karma is something that you build up. You build up good karma or bad karma so that when you transition into the next life, you either have a buildup of good karma or bad karma. It has nothing to do with your life as you exist today and, karma's gonna get ya. That's just more American dumbassery. Oh, less money. Religion makes way less money than entertainment industry, and what are you talking about? Religion makes incredible amounts of money, and it's tax-free. But, this is a dumb chimpanzee, so what do you expect? Guys, don't come down to his level. He's struggling with something. Yes, I'm struggling with stupidity and with so many people like you who are cool with pedophilia. You don't mind. As long as you get to go to heaven when you die, who cares about all those kids that are being raped by the church as we speak? Oh, Jesus. Blah, 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 blah. Scorpion, long time no see. Life's good, other than the fact that there's a genocide taking place right now. I don't know how anybody could see that there's a genocide happening and you're like, yeah, life's good. Oh, I'm done reading these dumbass comments. And what's the world's biggest religion? I think Christianity with 2.2 million. Christianity has 1 to 1.5 million members worldwide. Islam is by far the biggest religion. But all three are Abrahamic religions, meaning they all come from Abraham, who is the father of the bad guy people. By the way, if you're watching, like, share, and sub, don't, help out, man. It helps. Whether you think it does or not, it does. And maybe if you share it enough, like you take 2 seconds to share it on Facebook, we'll actually get intelligent people who can come in and make some sort of argument that's real. Right? They just make no arguments. It's so stupid. And the thing is, like, think about, like, Christianity. What's the very best case scenario for Christians, right? What Christians want to happen is that Jesus finally returns. After all this time, the prayer jar finally fills up and, they're sitting there watching. They're like, all right, it's almost at the top. Jesus, get ready. You're going to head on down now. They've almost said enough prayers. Okay, they did. And then Jesus comes down, and as soon as his little toenail touches the ground, 26 of you good Christians out there are captured while everyone else dies in Armageddon. They have you wanting death, doom, and gloom. Everything that they teach us, everything that they push on us is death, doom, and gloom. No matter what thing you believe in, it's death, death, doom, and gloom. Whatever religion you subscribe to, death, doom, and gloom. Even if your religion is science. You believe the earth is round, so you believe that at one point there were big giant lizards, fish turned into lizards, and they walked around stepping on everything. And then a rock fell from the sky and wiped everything out. You know, you believe in a round earth, so you believe a rock could fall out of the sky at any time and wipe us all out. Or there could be a pole shift. And the thing is, everything that you believe in, we're long overdue for it too. We're long overdue for a rock to fall out of the sky. We're long overdue for a pole shift to happen where the poles switch places and everything dies. We're long overdue for an ice age. We're long overdue for a super volcano like Yellowstone to explode. You know? Everything that they teach you, everything that you're supposed to believe is death, doom, and gloom. And it's all invisible shit. Everybody believes in this invisible nightmare that's around everywhere. Everything is an invisible nightmare. If you believe in religion, then it's invisible God and invisible devil, and you just believe it for literally no reason. There's no evidence, no anything to support that belief structure, other than you're told to by the people that you know benefit the most from your slavery. But it's invisible shit. The pole shift, invisible. Rocks falling out of space, invisible. Germs. You believe in germ theory. I guarantee everybody that's watching this believes that COVID, flu, whatever it is, starts because some dude is walking down the street when suddenly COVID manifests inside of them. Just manifest. And now they're sick. And as they're sick, they're walking around and every time they cough and sneeze, COVID sauce comes out. Now the guy has COVID sauce on his hands. The thing is, if you cough here, everybody's safe. Everything's okay. But if you cough here, oh shit, now you're a biological weapon walking around getting everybody sick. How many of you can point to your immune system? Can any of you? Any of you point to your immune system? Tell me exactly what that is. But you believe that the evil germs, patient zero coughs out clouds. If there's no moving air, if it's just still air, then the cloud just floats in the air. It's invisible, but it's also like a greenish tint with little red dots in it. And anybody that goes walking, as they walk through the cloud, the germs invade them. The Germans, man, the Germans are coming. The Germans are coming. The germs invade them and go up their nose. And if they don't have a strong immune system, some white blood cell ninjas at the doorway, then they'll get sick. They'll get the COVID. Or, like I say, they cough and they don't cough here. They cough here. Not here. Here's safe. Here is death. Here, everybody's okay. Here, it's a fucking pandemic, right? Somebody coughs on their hand, now they have the COVID sauce on their hand, the invisible, self-replicating, super intelligent COVID sauce. And as they walk around, if they touch the walls or they touch a pen or a door handle or whatever, the COVID sauce now latches on to whatever they touched and self-replicates and adjusts to, it goes from being in the 98.6 degree human body. It's not like cold and flu season is when it's hot outside and like it is now. Cold and flu season is when it's cold. So it goes from the 98 degree body to being outside 50, 40, 30 degrees, whatever it may be. And this thing, this COVID sauce, this self-replicating super virus, super disease, just self-replicates, and it can form little colonies, little campgrounds, just waiting for somebody else to come and touch whatever it was. So now COVID sauce is stuck to their hand, and it starts self-replicating all over their hand. And if they happen to touch their face or pick their teeth or even scratch their ear, now the COVID sauce jumps off their hand, goes in their orifice, whether it's their ear, their nose, whatever, it goes up, and now they're sick. Do you know that germ theory is called germ theory still? It's not a fact. Germs aren't a fact. Germs are a theory. Why do you think that is? Why isn't it the germ fact? You know, it's all the same kind of bullshit. Just like the theory of gravity. Gravity, everything that you assign to gravity could easily be explained by buoyancy and density. Everything. All of the effects that you're talking about have to do with buoyancy and density. But you call it gravity. You think that there's a force that is pulling everything towards the center of the earth. And that force, just like the germs, is super intelligent, right? Because it knows, exactly how much force it takes to hold a giggity billion tons of water to a spinning ball that travels spinning at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. And again, if you've ever seen like what happens when you spin a tennis ball that's covered in water, that's wet, all the water goes to the extreme points and then flies off in like a ring. It doesn't fly in every direction. It pools in the center and then flies off. Yet gravity knows exactly how much force it takes to hold the water in its place. Still lets it move around a little bit, but hold the water. Yet it also knows how much force to do that my hair is still standing up. And you think like the idea of gravity, like just think about it. Whether you agree with me or not. So the reason why the planets are in their orbit is because of gravity. The sun is holding them in their orbit because the Earth is going around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. And if not for gravity, it would fly off into into space. So if it takes X amount of gravity to keep the Earth in its position, wouldn't it require more gravity to hold a bigger planet like Jupiter in its position? Wouldn't that require more force, more strength to hold the heavier, bigger object in its position? Well, if it requires more force to hold Jupiter in its place, then how come all the stuff on the inside doesn't get sucked in? How does the sun know to shoot gravity out to Jupiter, but not, the same gravity doesn't pull the Earth in, because it would require more gravity to hold Jupiter in place. And everything in between the sun and Jupiter would be sucked into the sun. But, that's just ridiculousness on top of ridiculous on top of ridiculous. Like once you sort of step out of that mindset and you just think about how stupid what you're supposed to believe is, I hate to say it. I've said it now for some time, and it's almost like embarrassing. I'm so opposed to religion and have been for such a long time that saying this kind of bothers me a little bit. But the Christian religious narrative regarding the creation of the earth and all that, it actually makes more sense than the Big Bang bullshit. And the Christian narrative makes no sense at all. It's stupid as shit. But it's the Big Bang is just way, way dumber. It's such a dumb thought process. That the singularity was 13 billion years ago, the singularity. Just like with Christianity, we're not allowed to ask what created God. And where was God? Was it a big empty warehouse? And then God just sort of blink, dinkle, dinked into existence? Or did it create the warehouse that it's in as well? Like, how does that even work? Same thing with the Big Bang. Was the Big Bang a singularity just on a nothing? On like a sheet of white paper or something? Or was the singularity inside the big empty warehouse that is the universe. Then the Big Bang then filled it up. You know, you don't get to ask those questions. But the singularity was just there, and it was all the by the way, if you're watching, like, share, and sub. It was all the gravity was pulling everything that's in the universe. Stand where you are right now and just do a 360 real quick. And think every little bit of everything you can see, and then multiply that times a giggity fulfillion. All of that material was condensed down into something smaller than the size of a match head, according to science. And it was just pulling, you know, condensing and condensing. And you know how, like, when you smash something and you condense it from all sides, it then explodes? Well, apparently that's what happened. And this is just common sense here, but if it's everything is condensed down into something smaller than a match head, and then it explodes, by the time you're 10, 50, 100 feet away from that initial explosion, all of the materials are going to get further and further away from each other as they go out. But this singularity, it explodes and it just keeps spewing out stardust and stardust and stardust, and it just goes out in every direction. And eventually that same gravity that was condensing all of this into a small little match head ball, it now forms little spinning pockets, little spinner pockets. And within those pockets, now all of that debris that was shot out of the singularity now starts to coalesce and come together in these clumps. Just clump and clump and clump and clump and clump. And the clumps get bigger and bigger and bigger. You know, in this vacuum of space with no air, no anything. But the clumps keep getting bigger until they get to whatever size they choose to be, I guess. Because according to the system, you know, our sun is 400 times the size of the Earth. But our sun is like a flea next to the Earth when it comes to, like, the Betelgeuse, the star Betelgeuse. The star Betelgeuse is a gazillion fulfillion times bigger than our sun. So it's not like there's a standard size. Oh, look, one going from tree. There used to be another tree right there. From that tree over. Go figure. They always do that. But so the clumps aren't, there's not a standard size for the clumps. But at some point, the clump in the empty vacuum of space just lights itself on fire. And it lights itself on nuclear fire. Nuclear fission fire that will burn forever. Somehow, in the vacuum of space with no oxygen, no nothing. It does that. And what's always funny to me is how, even though space is a vacuum, somehow there's still an up and a down. Like, you just don't think about how stupid these things that they tell you are. Especially the idea that they've scientifically did this or that. What scientific room did they create that they can then experiment with a vacuum, a gravityless vacuum and airless vacuum? And how can they even begin to do these experiments when they can't even get to it? But somehow the clumps now that are on fire, now in a flat egg pattern, you know, not here, 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 but in a straight line out, now they have more little gravity pockets. And those gravity pockets suck in a bunch more debris and dirt and shit and start making big clumps and clumps and clumps and clumps and clumps. And now this time, again, there's not a standard size, but this time the clumps light the inside on fire. Like our Earth. the inside core gets lit on fire, but the outside stays rock. And eventually, water just sort of appears. And according to science, what more than likely happened is an asteroid, a rock, crashed into the earth, fell out of the sky, a rock fell out of the sky, crashed into the earth, and a single-celled organism survived the violent explosion and crashing that was, the initial crash. And now that single-celled organism is now in all the water because it's been raining a whole bunch for some reason, and now there's water everywhere. And then that single-celled organism over millions of years evolves into a double-celled organism and then a quadruple-celled, and it just keeps evolving over time till it eventually creates a fish, which then that fish turns into all the other fish, all the other crustaceans, all the other turtles, and all the other everything that exists, the mammals and all kinds of shit. And then eventually, one of those fish, it would be like saying that one day a human just walks into the water and can breathe water. Well, two humans, right? Because it would have to be two to be able to multiply, a man and a woman, a male and a female. But at one point, two fish just sort of come out of the water, and now they can breathe outside on land, and they turn into big, giant lizard monsters. Huge, much bigger than anything that exists today. Big, giant lizard monsters, some of which can even fly. Fish turned into those things. Somehow they just did. They just did. Evolution. And for hundreds of millions of years, these big, giant lizards existed. And then one day, another rock falls out of the sky, and this time it wipes everything back out. Now, I'm not sure if it was started over and then fish had to come back out again, or somehow some little creatures survived the rock falling and then the subsequent, no sun because it was blocked out by the blah, 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 blah bullshit. But suddenly this time, instead of creating large lizard monsters, this time the fish creates lions and tigers and bears, oh my, elephants and hippos and all these other, and especially chimpanzees. And after millions and millions of more years, the chimpanzees turn into humans. Nothing else turns into humans. There's not tiger people or bear people or elephant people. Everything else just sort of stays the same, but humans, we just evolve. We come from the chimps, and just the chimps turn into people. And for millions of years, people just existed. We lived basically the same way, by fire and all this other shit. And then suddenly, around 150 years ago or so, we just sort of figured everything out. And within that time, we now know that the Big Bang narrative that that's the truth. Swirly clumps that light themselves on fire, and then rocks fall out of the sky to make fish monkey people, that totally makes sense, doesn't it? It's just so stupid. It really is just such an irritatingly stupid narrative that by regurgitating, you become stupid. You don't even realize it. You think you sound smart, but you're stupid. You're stupid if you believe this crazy nonsense. So many of you will argue, well, the James Webb Space, you don't know shit about the James Webb Space Telescope. You know nothing about it, but you argue it like it's truth. James Webb Space Telescope. No footage of any testing of it, how they knew it would work, how they created this thing. Do you guys know where the James Webb Space Telescope lives? It lives at a Lagrange point. Never heard of the Lagrange points, I'm sure, but the Lagrange points are these magical gravity pockets that apparently every planet has, that a guy in the 1770s just sort of figured out. Don't ask how he figured it out. You know, how did he have any sort of measurements of the size of the Earth or the sun or anything like that? How he did that, nobody knows. But each planet has 5 Lagrange points. One in front of the planet in its orbit, one behind the planet in its orbit, 2 in between the planet and the sun, and then 1 about 1 million to 1.5 million miles further out from the planet, which is where the James Webb Space Telescope lives. And it's this magical gravity pocket that if anything gets caught in it, it just floats along. The Earth's gravity pulls it along with it. So when you were to ask, well, if the James Webb Space Telescope is 1 million and 1.5 million miles away, how does it have the fuel to keep going? Oh, don't worry. It doesn't need fuel. It just caught in the Lagrange point, which is just insane because, you know, it requires you being stupid. First of all, how did they ever get to it? But even if they did, we don't make anything that goes 67,000 miles per hour. So to think that the James Webb Space Telescope made it out to the interception point where it would, you know, the Lagrange point would catch it. Well, no matter how fast it was going, it would suddenly be rocketed into going 67,000 miles per hour, which would destroy it. Even if you were going in the same direction, like if you're driving down the street at 25 miles an hour and somebody comes up from behind you and smashes you going 67 miles per hour, doesn't matter that you're going in the same direction, you're fucked. Well, this is like scientific sensitive equipment that, you know, we can't go anywhere. We have nothing that can go anywhere close to 67,000 miles per hour. And yet this thing was in space, whether it was going in the direction or not, which again, how would you even do that? How would you even get something to that point? You would have to launch it at a certain direction. But the thing is, there's no footage of the launch of the James Webb. You know, there's an animation that shows the shuttle doors opening and then the James Webb floating out, and then its big giant space sails extending, and then it flies off to go meet where it's supposed to meet up, which is just fucking stupid. But literally nothing about it makes any sense. Why didn't they take actual footage of it? Why did they have to make an animation? I mean, there's just so much, like, and I hate talking about it. I really do. I hate talking about the Earth shape. I hate talking about James Webb and all that stuff right now. I mean, it's all fascinating stuff and it's all worth talking about. But right now, there's a genocide taking place. And anything that we talk about that isn't about the genocide is a distraction from the genocide. The only reason I bring these things up is to prove to you that the system that tells you not to worry about the genocide is the system that lies to you about all these other things too. You know, the same system that says bad guy land is the victim is the one that tells you there's a James Webb Space Telescope. I can program a video game, put any physics I want. Exactly. I mean, the model works the same. Look, just add light years. Right, light years. Light years. It's funny, too, because when you think about, like, who the average Goyim were back in the 50s and shit, back when they first started pushing these narratives on us, we were dumb. Like most people don't want to admit it, but you are incredibly smart compared to your grandparents, compared to your parents. And I know, you know, obviously we think, well, those were the better generations and those people, blah, blah, blah. Those people only knew what the system wanted them to know. They didn't have access to this incredible machine that they gave us, where we can all communicate with each other and we can find all these alternative sources of information. You know, back when I was a kid, when this teacher assigned you a book report, you had to hurry up and get to the library because there were only a certain amount of books dedicated to whatever that subject was. And once those were checked out, you were fucked. You had to either wait till those books came back or try to go to a different library in a different place or whatever. But the only information you could have is exactly what the teacher already knew it was going to say. Nowadays, we have access to information that we were never supposed to have. Look at this thought experiment. Can you tell the difference between a photorealistic painting and a photo? No. Especially not when you're... So shortly after the James Webb was launched, there was a well-respected professor. I can't remember where it was or who he was. I don't care. But he put out a picture of a piece of chorizo magnified by like 20. A small little piece of chorizo, but under huge magnification. And he said, he posted it with like new pictures from the James Webb Space Telescope. Look at how incredible these are. And everybody fell for it. Oh man, these pictures are amazing. Wow, blah, 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 all this shit, right? And then eventually he came out like a week later and he was like, look, I did this. It's magnified chorizo. I was just trying to show you that you can't always believe what you see just because a trusted source tells you to believe it. I mean, the reality is the vast majority of you believe in God. You believe in a God that literally watches as children are raped every single day by the people that get their whole existence from God, the clergy, the system, you know, the church. Do you not realize how insane that is? Gravity is like your dad saying, because I said so. It's true. Jesus says, but I understand the irony of drinking while working and claiming Jesus, but Jesus is not real. Jesus is a bad guy creation. He's like you guys all, he's a bad guy. Jesus was a bad guy. Like the entire narrative you're given is a chosen narrative. All of the characters are bad guys. It's crazy that most people don't know their Bible, but it also makes sense because I think the more anyone with any sort of reasonable intelligence looks into the Bible, they're not going to get answers. They're going to get more and more questions. You know, if you're honest and you look at it from an honest perspective, it's just stupidity. It's just insane stupidity. And I think most people understand that. And they know that the more they look into their thing, the harder it's going to be for them to just believe it. So they don't. So they just walk around saying that they're a Christian. They say that they believe this or that. But you start asking them about stuff and they have no idea. You know, ask your average Christian, what's the very first thing your God does? After your God turns on the light, it's not the sun. The sun and the moon aren't made till the fourth day. So not even really sure how you have 4 days without having a sun and a moon. But what's the very first thing your God does after it turns on the light? Most people have no idea. You know, and this is number one. Like I had some Jehovah's come through. Surprisingly, the Jehovah's don't come by my house anymore because they used to. When I used to chase them away, they would still come by. But once I started sitting and talking with them, they didn't want to do that anymore. But I had 2 guys come over. One guy was the elderly of the 2. One guy was like a young, you know, maybe 20-something, early 20-something. and the other guy was this elderly, and they were both black, which I just find appalling when, you know, black people believe in anything Christian. It's just so embarrassing. But the elderly guy was gay. He was clearly a gay guy. He was as effeminate as could be, and he would say things like, yeah, when I was in my younger days, I did some things that I'm not proud of, and I lived a life that I wasn't supposed to lead. And then at one point his wife walks up, and she's clearly gay. Like, they're clearly each other's beard. And so I, you know, at one point I ask him, like, what's the first thing your God does? And they both rattle off some nonsense, and I'm like, no, the first thing your God does is build the firmament. And they're like, firmament? What's the firmament? What's the firmament? And one of them looked it up, and he was like, oh, wow, the firmament appears 17 times in the Bible. What is it? How do you not know what the firmament is? Anybody that claims to be Christian and believes in the James Webb Space Telescope is a fucking idiot. It's really that simple. You're just dumb. Like I don't mean it like you're but you're dumb. What you believe is dumb. Those two things contradict each other. And you don't like it. But it's all chosen fairy tale bullshit. It's literally just bullshit. Every character is a chosen character in some way. You know, his name was Abram, and his wife was Sarai, but he built the God phone altar, and God came down and had a conversation with him and told him that everything that he can see is now his. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine somebody coming up to you today and being like, yeah, I built an altar and I had a conversation with God, and God told me that your house and everything it's all mine. It's mine. You guys have to believe me. Believe me, because I said so, because I said I talked to God. Nobody else saw it, but I'm telling you. God said, this is all mine. God, he told me my name was Abram, and now it's Abraham. And my wife was Sarai, but now she's Sarah. And she's like 90, but she's pregnant now. What I think is interesting, too, is the Bible talks about that people live these hundreds of years, right? But it's not like their aging is staggered. They forgot to do that. So when somebody was 90 in the Bible, they were old as fuck. They were all old and decrepit. So imagine being old and decrepit for a few hundred years. It's not like they had the foresight to make it so the people that, you know, were in the Bible aged slower. They don't say that. Abraham didn't want to believe that that him and his wife were gonna have another child because he was 99 years old. And old people don't have babies. Come on. Why do you care, says this person? Why do you care about this control scheme that hides behind salvation so they can violate children on a regular basis? Why do you care about this control scheme that takes people's money with the promise of, you know, salvation and happiness when it's bullshit? Save that money and use that money wisely. You know? Oh, I know it's your last $100. Like, how is it possible that televangelism still exists? How is it possible that there are people like Pat Robertson who can pretend to hear people's ailments? It's like voodoo shit. Pretend to hear people's ailments. Oh, got to close his eyes real hard, put his hand in the air. I'm getting a message that there's a Gertrude. Gertrude has a bad knee and some cancer. Well, Gertrude, stand up and claim your miracle. Touch! He can now command God to fix your knee, to go against God's plan, right? It was God's plan for you to have that fucked up knee. It was God's plan for you to get cancer. And if Pat Robertson says so, God's going to listen. Well, before he died, or any one of these televangelists. God made you blind? Oh, well, I'm going to tell God to not make you blind. And of course, they're always asking for those $1,000 seeds. Just, I know your bills might be late. You might not have any money. You might only have $1,000 left to your name. But if you sow that seed with us, God will return it to you tenfold. Most Christians don't like to acknowledge the fact that God doesn't answer prayers. God answers tithing. You know? It's just such stupid shit. And I was still watching the 700 Club when COVID started. And I watched as they didn't tell people, look, we're gonna instead of concentrating on everybody's individual stuff, Gordon and Wendy and Pat and all of us, we're just gonna do one big touch prayer and get rid of COVID. Nope. Couldn't do that. But was still telling people that had ailments and shit, don't worry about going to the doctor. God's just going to fix it for you. And it's those same people that a few days earlier called in and I would like to donate $1,000 seed. Oh, okay, great. Blah, 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 blah. Just get your information. Okay, did you have anything that you wanted Pat to maybe pray for you? Well, I don't want to be selfish, but I have a bad knee. And the doctor says it's just going to be a bad knee. There's nothing they can do about it, and it causes me a lot of pain. Okay, well, make sure you're watching in the next few weeks, because maybe Pat will pray for you, maybe. And then it comes in, and Pat says, I got a Gertrude out of Pennsylvania. Like there's not 1,000 Gertrudes out of Pennsylvania. Do you have a bad knee? I'm sensing you have a bad knee. Oh my gosh, I just called and donated and you know, asked them to, like, and the people just fall for it. It's so embarrassing how stupid you are. And you're so stupid you can't actually acknowledge like why I love when people try to turn their anger into laughing at someone. LOL, be mad, bro. Are you literally doing the same thing you're talking about? Like, that's how stupid people can be. I don't know what side you're on, but... you're the drunkard. I'm drunk. Apparently, I'm drunk. You know, I'm always drinking. Yep. This person says, yep, too stupid to reach it. Because I'm supposed to give you attention. Knowing that you're not going to say anything intelligent or, you know, you just want attention with your fake bot profile. That's what I should be doing. Because people come here to watch me talk, to read dumb troll comments that literally make no sense. With all my drinking, right? Look at how comical you are. And as always, I bet if you go through the comments, I can't, but there's been lots of them. If you go through the comments, all of these, especially the biggest commenters, they never say anything about, hell yeah, we need to get rid of these pedophiles. Hell yeah, we need to stop the genocide. Oh, look, nothing coming out of that plane. That plane is going to loop around and then go to Detroit Metro Airport, which is about 10 or 15 miles south of here. The only lines that we really see, I mean, for the most part, 98% of them go east to west. Most of them, 95%, go west to east. Occasionally, we get the one that goes east to west. Strangely enough, again, the Detroit Metro is 10 miles south of here, 10, 15 miles south of here. If that much. What's east of here, about 40 to 50 miles, is Selfridge Air Force Base. What a coinkydink, huh? But like I say, I guarantee not a single comment that's been made, at least by one of these trolls. I mean, I know there's a few of my people on here, condemns pedophilia. Not a single one of these trolls condemns the genocide that's taking place. Or even tries to explain how, justify those things or anything. They want to keep talking about me when I want to talk about the bigger picture. Isn't that interesting? It's so common. It's all they have. We don't need to condemn something that's that obvious. No, you do. You absolutely do, especially when your whole existence is trying to get the guy that's whole mission statement is that we should kill pedos and cut off the cult. That we need to eliminate the cult that commits the genocide and keeps us all slaves. The fact that you feel like you don't need to condemn those things, you just need to come in here and point to how stupid you are. That just says everything. Right? We need to eliminate this cult. No, the NWO is what you're told to think. They make movies about the Illuminati and the New World Orders and all that stuff. They say New World Order all the time so you can focus in on it. There's only one thing you're not allowed to talk about. I could make videos all day talking about the New World Order is going to get you, the Illuminati is going to get you, and nothing would happen. There wouldn't be any sort of interference or censorship. As a matter of fact, go look. Go look at any other truther page and see if you see anything close to the comment section that I get. First of all, you'll see that nobody gets views like I do. Unless they're much, much more famous than I am. Shadow government? No. That, again, the only reason people know about the deep state is because Trump told you to think that way. Trump told you, hey, it's not us. It's not the people you can see. It's not the people you can hold accountable. It's the deep state. It's a bunch of invisible people that you can't see, that you don't know exist. No, it's the one group you're not allowed to talk about. I can make videos all day talking about how crazy Christianity is, how bad Muslims are, how crazy Scientologists are, and all this other shit. I could talk about any of those things all day. There's only one group that you're just not allowed to talk about, and they just happen to be committing genocide as we speak. Isn't that strange how that works? My parents are both PSYOP officers in the military. Sure. Okay, if we're supposed to believe it, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to think about it. My feet, what's up?
I just bashed my foot on the edge.
Why'd you do that?
On the door.
Why'd you do that?
I don't know, it hurt.
Don't do that again. If the bad guys were actually good guys, they would encourage conversation. Like me, I go live and I talk about these things because I know nobody's going to debunk me. Nobody's going to debunk that somehow pedophilia is okay. Nobody's going to debunk that somehow the cult is okay. I'm confident that even if you come at me with something good, I'll have something better in response. Because that's what truth is. Truth inspires. Truth motivates. Just like fear. Fear motivates and inspires, but in a different way. You never see any of the bad guys saying, hey, let's have the conversation about it. All you ever see is people telling you not to talk about it. Doofuses like Charlie Kirk. Or even worse, Michael Rappaport. I would so love to have an interview with Michael Rappaport and just watch as that piece of shit crumbles. Ask him, do you honestly think you're such a good actor that if you weren't a bad guy, you would have had the career you had? If you couldn't have just called Uncle Morty to give you give you that position? And look at how all of these people just keep coming up with nonsense. Charlie Kirk would crush you in a debate, right? Did you guys see the footage of Charlie Kirk like talking about Palestine's not even a place? What kind of stupid ass rhetoric is that? But that's what they do. They get you going in these circular arguments that really don't have anything to do with anything. Even if Palestine wasn't a place and it was really called Judea and Samaria, it wouldn't justify the genocide taking place, the deliberate starving of an entire population, all the rapes and killings and all that. None of that would be justified because you call it someplace and something, you know. That's the kind of nonsense that Charlie Kirk brings to the table. That guy's a fucking idiot. And he knows it. That's why he doesn't argue reality. He argues fake nonsense. And when you know, when he says it to that young black kid, and that black kid's he's so taken back by the stupidity in what Charlie's even saying, that he's like, no, it exists. It's a place. It's on the maps and shit. And Charlie, no, that's why we're worlds apart. That's why we're worlds apart. Because I don't think it exists. Yeah, never mind all the maps. The place that didn't exist prior to 1948 was Bad Guy Land. Did you guys know that Hebrew is the youngest language on the planet? It was created by a guy named Eliezer Ben Yehuda in the late 1800s, early 1900s. It's the youngest language on the planet. And yet you're told something completely different. Oh, no, it's not. You guys ready? You guys ready? Let's see. Want to see how I'm lying? Right? Eliezer Ben Yehuda. Okay, so I don't show you my sources, right? Eliezer Ben Yehuda was a Russian bad guy linguist, lexicographer, and journalist who immigrated to Jerusalem in 1881 when the Ottoman Empire ruled it. He is renowned as the lexicographer of the first Hebrew dictionary and also the editor of the Jerusalem-based Hazvi, one of the first Hebrew newspapers published in the land of Bad Guy. Ben Yehuda was the primary driving force behind the revival of the Hebrew language. So it just fell apart. It just disappeared. To accomplish the task, Ben Yehuda insisted with the Committee of Hebrew Language that, to quote the committee records, in order to supplement the deficiencies of the Hebrew language, the committee coins words according to the rules of grammar and linguistic analogy from Semitic roots, Aramaic, and especially from Arabic roots. There you go. There you go. Tell me how that's wrong. It's created by this guy. They say his son was the first Hebrew speaker in the world. But you just don't believe it because they tell you it's ancient Hebrew and all this shit. One of the ways they get by with not existing in history, at least the historical narrative they give us, is that they didn't write things down for the longest time. For the longest time, all of their traditions were oral traditions, passed down. Because, the telephone game keeps things honest, keeps things on the straight and narrow, right? Oh yeah, absolutely deny the Holocaust. It's fake. There were only 3 million bad guys in Europe at the time. And even the narrative of 6 million isn't accurate as far as like what they say over in Europe and shit. They don't even claim the 6 million thing anymore. But just look at the World Census Report. 15 to 16 million prior, 16 to 17 during, and 18 million afterward. Worldwide. There's no loss attributed. I mean, I highly suggest everybody, if there's anything that you can talk about, anything that you should look up to you know, any conspiracy video, whatever, there's a video called Hollywoodism that I highly suggest everybody watch. And I'll leave a link to it in the description when I'm done, along with a link to the website, www.the-bilderberg-group.com. Free downloads, free music. Go check it out. It'll ask you how much you want to pay. You can say 0 and you get it for free. All we ask is that you share it with somebody. Or you could donate, and that would be really helpful, but we don't require that. But Hollywoodism, the best thing about Hollywoodism is it's not made by some crazy conspiracy theorist. It's not an Alex Jones movie. It's not a Loose Change or anything like that. It's a movie documentary sort of style movie that they made, bragging about how not only do they invent and control Hollywood, but how they used Hollywood to create the America that they wanted to live in. It's a movie that if I remade it and I made it word for word, except for instead of saying we and us, I said they and them, it would get called anti-supremacy tropes. Supremacy tropes. Those are anti-supremacy tropes you're using. How dare you say those things? Yet they flat out say it. One of the people in the video, she's like a granddaughter of one of the founders of Hollywood, says, well, essentially, the American dream is actually the bad guy dream. I highly encourage people to go watch. I'm not going to, you know, suggest or, you know, encourage you to go watch anything. I think there's lots of good shit out there. 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. Even though A Rich Man's Trick is clearly another one of the CIA productions, it still has good information in it. The Obama Deception has good information in it, but I don't push those. Hollywoodism, absolutely. You have to watch Hollywoodism. One of the things you'll see is that during the entire Holocaust, Hollywood only made 2 movies about it. And those 2 movies were made by Goyim. They weren't even made by the bad guys. Now, before you lose your shit, I mean, my family, I believe, is Project Paperclip. But the narrative that we were given was that my Polish grandfather was in a camp. Was set to be sent to Auschwitz just before the liberation. One thing you also notice, if you go look at any of the liberation photos or videos, first of all, they always show it from a level perspective. Whenever they want to show how many people there are, they go up high, so you can see the heads that are being hidden by, you know, the people. But when they want to tell you that there was a lot more people, they do it from a head-on perspective. So you're only going to see those kind of videos. And I always encourage you, whenever you're looking at those videos, look at the backgrounds. Look and see if the backgrounds make sense. But what you'll notice is when you see the people are all, you know, well-fed. None of them are emaciated. You know, they just don't look like what you would expect people to look like from that kind of situation. And none of them are happy to be being liberated. Not one of them. Nobody's smiling. Nobody's like, yay, we're finally free. This has been terrible. Not one. They forgot to make some of the people do that in the videos they provide us. Because it's all just Hollywood fantasy bullshit. The founders of Hollywood, the 6 kings of Hollywood, shortly thereafter, went to Germany and had some secret meeting where they discussed what they were going to do. I mean, it's a secret meeting, but they discussed how they were going to manufacture the narrative from that point on. And that's what they did. And the thing is, this is just like anything else. If I was wrong, you wouldn't tell me not to say it. You would want to know what I'm thinking so you can address those things and prove me wrong, show me what I'm wrong about, and explain things. When you're right, you tell people the truth and you encourage them to ask you questions. You don't hide behind, don't you say that, don't you say that. The starving bad guy was after the Americans bombed German railway lines, which prevented food and medicine from getting to the camps. 100%. Prior to that, they had their own soccer teams, their own theater groups. They had their own money. I actually have a money from then. You know, it's just not, the narrative you're given just isn't true. There was a bad guy, kid, who in the 90s or late 80s, 90s, went there and debunked the whole chamber myth. Showed how what you're shown and told as the chambers couldn't exist. And most importantly, the chambers required fuel, required ingredients. And supposedly the Germans kept really great detail of everything, detailed records of everything. And nothing shows the ingredients necessary to create the narrative. Not to mention it's just physically impossible for that to have happened. Like, people just assume that bodies just disappear. You can just make bodies burn. You just light them on fire and that's not how it works. And it's been what's been used ever since to justify supremacy. You know, to validate censorship and all that other shit, which is crazy. You should encourage people to express their ignorant views so then you can debunk them. I know that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah, so where's the bodies in Gaza? Well, they're destroyed. And the bad guy controlled media isn't going to show us those things. What are you, crazy? There's more than enough videos, civilian videos, showing you exactly what's happening. Yeah. There's more than enough evidence to show you exactly what's happening. And just like there's more than enough evidence to show you exactly what's happening, there's no evidence to validate the bad guy narrative that you're given. That somehow bad guy land is the victim, and you won't find a single video showing you how bad guy land is being attacked.
Yo!
Are you serious?
What? I give him back it.
What? So again, we're gonna go another day.
No, Dad.
Yep.
Stop. No, Dad, I'll stop.
I mean, it's all right in front of you, right? You know, the evidence is all right in front of you. You don't bomb an entire place and leave it in rubble and there's no, well, where are the bodies? How about underneath the rubble? Is that a possibility? All you have to do is look up any video that shows you before and after photos of Gaza. And if you can see that and not have any sort of feelings about it, like, you are a psychopathic piece of shit. On a level I can't even relate to. But of course, you know, look at the dumbasses coming through and they just have nothing to say. If anybody can show me one single comment that debunks anything I've said, I'd love to see it. I love when people that are on my feed talk about me working. Well, aren't you supposed to be working? Why aren't you at work? Oh, let me guess. You have a night job. You know, one of the most important things people have to understand is Team Jorge. You know, understand what Team Jorge is. Team Jorge was exposed in 2023 as being a bad guy land special forces secret black ops organization that specialized in cyber hacking and troll farms. There's another thing called act.il, which was an app that they created that was like a game, and they assigned people points and rewards and all that for finding people like me or anybody that was pro-Palestine, pro-Gaza, you know, anything that bad guy land didn't like, and they gave rewards and points and shit for reporting, for, you know, whatever comments, like we always said, you know, they're desperately trying to get you to acknowledge their comments because they either get paid every time or you know, I don't know the inner workings of it. I'm not them. But ACT-IL absolutely validated that they've been using this system to encourage their disgusting people to try to hide the truth. They can't debunk the truth, so they try to hide it. What? Huh? What? If you ate what? You'd what?
If I ate mixed origins, you'd eat my honey roasted nuts.
From your horrible lunches, right. I know. Okay, so why do you keep making deals with someone? You know, this is all so obvious. It's all so obvious.
No, you made a deal.
Wait, so you want us to believe that? Question mark. Bad guys were not slaughtered in the millions, but believe videos from the time developed with a what? So are you honestly dumb enough to say that you think that all of the videos that are coming out showing the devastation and the victimhood of the Palestinians, those videos? Right. All of the videos by the people are fake. When the system provides you Hollywood-esque videos, those are real. Huh? Don't let the dogs out.
Also, Mike's not gonna eat them.
Yeah, you are. You made the deal, right?
Yes.
So then come sit down and eat.
I don't want to eat these nuts. Like this.
Will you just stop?
I don't want to eat their horrible lunches.
Then why did you make the deal?
They're such horrible lunches. I was gonna trick them.
Oh, you sound like a really good person.
Here's what's on our horrible lunches: bananas, oranges, mangoes, avocados, honey roasted nuts. Terrible lunches.
Terrible lunches.
And fresh cut up cheese.
And fresh cheese, yep. Terrible lunches. We are the terrible people.
They complain about their breath.
No. They're making fun of the idiots online. Hang on. Oh, yes. So inappropriate. So juvenile. I just love that they continuously prove the point. Like, all you really have to do is if I'm wrong, pick one of the things I'm wrong about and then address it. But instead of doing that, they just keep saying the same sort of dumbass, pay attention to me nonsense. And it's just, I don't know what else people need. I don't know what the what you require as a human being to think in a certain way or accept something or believe something, right? Like this notion that the videos only provided by the system that show well-fed people sad, seemingly sad, all walking out of liberation. Those must be real, but all the videos that literally show, like the drone footage that shows the before and afters of Gaza, the Google Earth images that show it.
Mom,
Will you stop?
Don't let the dogs out. The fence is open.
why aren't the dogs?
Okay, Nate,
'Cause the fence.
go do something and leave him alone.
Also, I'm 10 extra minutes. You better go.
Whatever. I mean, it's like, it's just like everything else we've been saying this whole time. Can you hold this for just a minute? Tell everybody stupid bad guy landed. Here,
It's stupid.
careful, you're flipping it all around.
Yes, bad guy land is stupid. I don't know if my shit. I'm trying to water the plants and sorry guys. Oh, that one got me. Yes, bad guy land is stupid. I don't know what's been going on with Iran and all that nonsense, but it really is sad and concerning. I don't know. I don't even know what to say about it. It's just, the whole thing is just disgusting. The bottom line is we're all fucking people. And this life isn't easy. Adding insult to injury is just stupid.
Looks like they shut off the comments finally. Why do you think that is? Because this way they can say, oh, well, he doesn't answer the comments, and this way they can get away with, me not consistently pointing out how fucking stupid they are. By the way, let's read this real quick because, people love to say I'm lying. So we'll pull up, we just looked up Eliezer Ben Yehuda, but now we're going to look up Team Jorge. Team Jorge. You see? Can you see? Let's see. Google Team Jorge in the Google machine. Team Jorge on the Wikipedia page. Team Jorge is the name given to an outfit of bad guy land contractors specialized in the use of malign cyber activities, including hacking, sabotage, and bot farm run social media disinformation campaigns to manipulate the outcomes of elections. So this is an election level group, black ops organization that you'll say, oh, well, they're not messing with, don't worry about the Bolson right there. They're not messing with the feed. They can't mess with your feed. They can manipulate elections, but they can't mess with your YouTube feed. The YouTube they provide. Sure, it'll break as soon as you do, but you know, this, okay, we'll keep doing it. This is the,
Do it again, Nate.
close the window.
Please keep it open.
No, air conditioning's on and it's hot outside. But if you think that this is what they could do, this is how this works. Like this is what they want you to know. This is just one organization, just one bad guy black ops organization. This isn't, you know, I mean, however the full extent of their we have no idea. There could be a bazillion of these freaking organizations, all extremely well funded by the bad guy land government. The group was exposed in February, look at how it's spelled, it's not February, it's February, 2023, after an award-winning undercover operation from journalists from Bad Guy Land and France as part of a consortium of investigative journalists coordinated by Forbidden Stories. The organization has been active since at least 2015 and boasts of having manipulated 33. Gotta love that 33, just like with COVID. How everybody kept reporting that they had 33 new cases, 33 new confirmations, 33. Have you seen that video? It's interesting. Elections worldwide, many of them in Africa, and in 27 cases with successful results. Their activities were revealed in sting operators in Tel Aviv carried out with their interactions. They filmed their interactions with Tal Hanen, the group's leader and former Bad Guy Land Special Forces operative, in which he explained the inner workings of the organization. According to Tal Hanen, the group's leader, Team Jorge has existed for more than 2 decades and has engaged in propaganda and disinformation activities in more than 30 countries. However, its first documented activity dates back to 2015. Their services have been available to government agencies, political campaigns, and private companies that wish to covertly manipulate public opinion. Gee, look at how I'm making all of this up. One of the organization's primary tools is a software package called Advanced Impact Media Solutions, or AIMS. The software automates centralized control of thousands of fake social media profiles on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Telegram, TikTok, and others like YouTube. A number of these profiles also have Amazon Bitcoin wallets. The group also employs hacking techniques to brute force accounts of potential victims. Man, I can't believe I can make this stuff up and then get Wikipedia to push it. Speaking of which, for everybody that likes to say, Wikipedia, anybody can manipulate Wikipedia. Well, let's do Naftali Bennett. You guys know who Naftali Bennett is? Naftali Bennett is a man who, prior to Netanyahu being in office, or being the dictator that he is now, he was the prime minister. He was one of 5 prime ministers in just under 3 years, or just under 4 years. So in 3 years, Bad Guy Land had 5 different prime ministers, 3 of which were Netanyahu. Well, no, 2 of which were Netanyahu. But, well, no. So it was Netanyahu, then it was Benny Gantz, then it was Netanyahu, then it was Naftali Bennett. Then Naftali Bennett stepped down and Yair Lapid took over for the last couple months. Then it was Netanyahu again. So, however you want to word that. But Naftali Bennett is this guy. So
Israel has arranged
you hear that? Wait, let's hear how he starts it. Oops.
by Israel.
My Bad Guy Land.
Instruction day for wiki editors. The goal of the day is to teach people how to edit in Wikipedia, which is the #1 source of information today in the world. As a way of example, if someone searches the Gaza flotilla, we want to be there. We want to be the guys who influence what is written there, how it's written, and to ensure that it's balanced and Zionist in nature.
Balanced and Zionist in nature. They're there to instruct the Wikipedia editors on how to make sure everything has a balanced and Zionist perspective. I don't make that up. That's what it is. Let's see, blah, 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 I don't care. Hanen claimed responsibility for a 2019 cyber attack against the Central Elections Committee of Indonesia, made to look like it had come from China for political reasons. Media outlets, including Bloomberg, reported on the attack in March 2019, noting the probable Chinese-Russian origin of the interference, while an investigation by The Guardian noted that it was more likely the work of other hackers leaving a false trail. He also claimed that Team Jorge interfered in the 2014 Catalan independence referendum, hacked the emails of the Chief of Staff of Trinidad and Tobago, and leaked a document to cause a political crisis, passed false information to an ABC journalist to influence the 2012 Venezuelan presidential election against former President Hugo Chavez, ran a 2022 campaign claiming that the Polisario Front had ties to Hezbollah and Iran, and another 2022 campaign defaming Ali bin Fatias al-Mari, the UN envoy for combating corruption. Isn't that interesting how that works? Hanen attended meetings involving Cambridge Analytica. You guys remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal, don't you? When they say that Russia interfered with the 2016 election, they sort of paint the picture that Russia interfered with the election to get Agent Orange elected. So even if they did, which they never provide any evidence for, and really it's more of an insult. They're insulting you. They're telling you you're just a dumb Goyim who, if you could be all for voting this way, but then you see a video that Russia put out, a fake video, and now you're going to change your mind. And that's the kind of shit that they try to tell you. That's how you think. Again, if you're commenting, I can't see it. From my end, the comments have stopped. Conveniently. There's literally no evidence to show that Russia had anything to do with it. Yet they push that narrative. And yet there's, very precise, accurate evidence to show that bad guy land did. And what you see is really like this Tal Hanen character, he brags of having 30,000 bot profiles at his disposal. He is just one bad guy land black ops organization. However many they have, we can't know. But just one bad guy land operation has 30,000 bots at its disposal. And yet you'll see Zuckerberg, putting out videos talking about how Facebook is opposed to troll farms, and they just spent a bunch of energy and effort and got rid of 1,000 profiles out of China, fake bot profiles out of China, 800 out of the Philippines, and not one out of bad guy land. And yet bad guy land clearly has the most. It's just wild. So that's that. So here, this is what we'll look up next, because this is really interesting. Act.il. Act.il was a social networking service used by supporters of Bad Guy Land to oppose online anti-Bad Guy Land content, such as Boycott, Divest, and Sanctions Movement, BDS. Its activities were referred to as an online propaganda campaign and a virtual situation room for pro-bad guy experts. ACT-IL directed its users to missions to like, comment on, and share pro-bad guy material on social media. It also asked users to flag, report, and respond to criticisms of bad guy land. Users were guided how to respond, which might entail writing a reply using the provided talking points, or sharing or uploading or upvoting an allied comment. The app also provided users with ready-made memes promoting Bad Guy Land's perspective for them to share. By completing missions, users earned points, unlocked badges, and had their scores displayed on leaderboards. If those two things, if Team Jorge and then ACT-IL doesn't explain what happens on social media, especially on pages like mine, I don't know what else you need. I don't know what else to provide you. By the way, if you find this interesting or you oppose it, like, share, and sub. Help the fuck out, man. Take 2 seconds and share this on Facebook. Click share and then share on Facebook. You could even share with the header, this guy's crazy. Somebody come tell him how he's crazy. Whatever you have to do to make yourself feel better. But help. This is what we're up against. Things like ACT-IL, things like a social media networking site that rewards people for attacking people like me. According to Plus 972, ACT-IL was the centerpiece of a digital campaign called 4IL, the number 4IL, which is actually for Bad Guy Land, announced in 2017 by Gilad Erdan, then the Minister of Strategic Affairs, for the promotion of Bad Guy Land and the delegitimization of boycott, divest, and sanctions, BDS. Which is peaceful, right? It's a movement that's about peacefully protesting, what is essentially genocide. Nobody's encouraging people to go kill. Nobody's encouraging people to go bombing or anything like that. That's their method. People figured out a long time ago, if you hit them in the pocketbooks, it's going to hurt them the most. And that's what BDS is all about. Pull out the funding. If they don't get their $38 billion over 10 years, $3.8 billion a year, which turns into about 15 billion shekels every year from the U.S. alone, and that's the base amount. Every time you hear a narrative where Bad Guy Land is supposedly buying missiles from us, or Bad Guy Land is buying jets or military equipment or whatever, they're not actually paying for it. If they do supposedly pay for it, it's out of the $3.8 billion a year we give them. But generally, that is just cash that's given to them in one lump sum every year, just given to them so they can do what they will with it. When it comes to buying weapons, not only do they get the $3.8 billion a year, there are multiple grants and all sorts of things set up that will pay for those things. More tax dollars being taken from you, not fixing your roads, not fixing your infrastructures, not creating a very effective government pedophile hunter group that makes Gordon Flowers look like nothing. Not doing it, not providing veterans with more help, not providing homeless people with help, but taking your money and giving it to a foreign country to commit genocide against another foreign entity, not a country, because Palestine's not a country. And really, it seems like Bad Guy Land isn't a country either. They don't refer to themselves as the country of Bad Guy Land. They always refer to themselves as the state of Bad Guy Land. Which leads me to believe that they're probably the 51st United State. It's just not talked about. But it actually would make a lot more sense. But there's all sorts of things like memorandums of understanding. Have you ever heard of a memorandum of understanding? Probably not. The only two memorandums of understanding that I know of are that bad guy land is supposed to have the greatest military in the region, like by tenfold. And anytime anything threatens that, it's up to the United States to provide bad guy land with whatever materials they need to balance that back out, so that bad guy land has that. The other memorandum of understanding is the $3.8 billion a year, 38 billion over 10 years, which is signed every 10 years. It's legitimate law, but because it's called a memorandum of understanding and not a treaty, it gets to be hidden away from us. It gets to work behind the scenes without us knowing about it or voting on it or anything. And it's really strange because the previous memorandum of understanding, the one that exists now that says bad guy land gets $38 billion over 10 years, they're typically signed in the 5th year of whatever the decade is, and then they go into effect in the 6th year. So Obama signed the last one, which gave bad guy land $38 billion over 10 years. But it didn't go into effect until sometime in like 2018 or something like. It's really weird how this one works. It's like the only legislation that Trump was like, oh yeah, well, Obama did a good job, so I'm just going to keep this one going. The funny thing is, the bad guys were upset. They thought $38 billion over 10 years wasn't enough. They thought it should be more like $100 billion. And watch, the next one is going to be signed in 2020. I don't know. It should either be signed next year or in 2028, which is 10 years after the last one supposedly went into effect. Either way, Trump's going to be the one that signs it. And I bet you he gives them their $100 billion. But when it was initially signed by Obama in 2016, it had what they called 2 concessions that Netanyahu had to agree to. Concessions. In order to get $38 billion over 10 years, $3.8 billion a year from the United States, free and clear cash money, lump sum payment, Netanyahu had to agree to 2 concessions. The first one being that they wouldn't use that money that we give them to develop their own weapons, and that they would use them to buy weapons from us, to create the illusion that we're not just arming bad guy land. No, they're buying weapons from us. And the second one was that they weren't allowed to ask for any more money until this had run out. But by the time it went into effect in 2018 or 19, not sure, those 2 concessions had been removed and replaced with the U.S. will now provide a large cache of weapons in bad guy land that we have access to anytime we need it for emergency purposes, but bad guy land can also use it as they see fit, and we'll just keep restocking it. But this goes into so much more. This goes into the Abraham Accords, right? Like, yes, we give them the $3.8 billion a year lump sum, but then there's the Abraham Accords, which were all of these deals that Trump went around making. Like, you didn't hear about it. This shit wasn't like forefront of the news. You would hear about things after they supposedly happened or whatever. But Trump ran around signing deals with all of these Muslim countries where, so bad guy land is the main beneficiary. What they're buying is the right for bad guys to be able to travel to whatever country it is, like Bahrain or the UAE or whatever, without any sort of interference, without even having visas, I think. They're just allowed to travel however they feel. And it's supposed to be a 2-way thing where the other people, the United Arab Emirates people or the Bahrainians, whatever they're called, that they were supposedly allowed the same privileges in bad guy land, but it never works out that way. But the way it works out is that bad guy land gets the freedom to travel as they see fit, and gets a guarantee from that country that whatever they end up doing in Palestine, the other country won't interfere with. That in order to get this deal, this thing, and the benefit to the other country is that the U.S. is going to pay for whatever they decide to agree to. So, like, let's say with Bahrain, part of the agreement was that we would supply them with, let's say, 20 F-35 fighter jets, right? Well, and that's so that they play nice with bad guy land. Well, because of the other memorandum of understanding that says bad guy land is to have the most superior military in the region by a large amount, we also have to give bad guy land 35 F-35 fighter jets to offset the 20 that we gave Bahrain to play nice with bad guy land to begin with. So bad guy land is just reaping the benefits from every direction. That's what the Abraham Accords are. Deals made with foreign countries that the people don't get any benefit for it. Only that the higher-ups of those countries get benefit. And the funny thing is, Trump couldn't get Saudi Arabia to sign, because Saudi Arabia has historically been one of the staunchest on paper supporters of the Palestinians. Of course, they don't do anything to actually help the Palestinians, but they refused to sign the Abraham Accords because they said that there needs to be a two-state solution, which is just insanity. You know, it's just insanity to begin with. There does not need to be a two-state solution. The bad guys need to get the fuck out of there. That's insane. You don't just decide that you want somebody's land so you get it. It doesn't work that way. But Saudi Arabia refused to sign. And the funny thing is like, while you're distracted by the differences that supposedly Trump and Biden have, I'm always focused on what they agree to. You know, well, what do they actually agree upon? And immediately, Biden just picked up where Trump left off. And the Biden administration, all of 2023, prior to October 7th, was all about trying to get Saudi Arabia to sign one of these normalization deals. Go try to look up what a normalization deal is. You won't find a proper definition. It's crazy. And they only seem to exist when it involves bad guy land. But in order to try to get Saudi Arabia to sign, Biden... So, if you guys think back, there was a guy called Adnan Khashoggi, who was a dual bad guy citizen, American citizen, was a high-ranking sort of bad guy reporter. And his main target was Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Arabian royals and whatnot. He exposed them for lots of bad shit. Well, he was summoned to a meeting at the Turkish embassy, or at an embassy, I can't remember the Turkish embassy, where there's security cam footage of him walking in, and then a while later, the same camera shows somebody dressed in his clothing who looks somewhat like him, had on different shoes and whatnot, leaving the place. Now, his wife was all upset. He never came home, this, that, and the other. It eventually became this international incident. And the blame started to shift towards the Saudi Arabians. And at first they denied it, but then it actually came out that not only was it the Saudi Arabians, the order came down from the Saudi prince himself to execute this. And if you guys remember, there was one day when Facebook YouTube and Instagram all went down for a few hours. And there was no explanation for it. It just happened. Well, according to a lot of people, the video of them dismembering Khashoggi, they dismembered him and put each piece of his body into a barrel of acid and buried it in the desert. The video of him being dismembered actually got leaked. So they had to shut down the 3 main social media systems to scrub it. And they did. And because of that, everybody was all in Trump shit. Hey, what are you going to do? The Saudis killed an American press agent, dual American bad guy citizenship press agent. The press are off limits, blah, blah, blah. What are you going to do about it? And Trump said, well, he has a multi-billion-dollar, $2 billion, 2.3, or something like that, billion-dollar weapons deal going with Saudi Arabia right now that he doesn't want to mess up. So he wasn't going to do anything. Well, according to the narrative, when Biden came into office, he froze that deal. The money had already been paid, but he froze the weapons being delivered. And part of the deal package that he was going to give Saudi Arabia if they signed the normalization deal was that he was going to unfreeze the weapons being, delivered. That was part of it. And we were going to give Saudi Arabia a civilian nuclear program. Hello, how you doing? There we go. You too. We were going to give Saudi Arabia a civilian nuclear program. Do you understand how insane that is? Just so they would play nice with bad guy land. And Saudi Arabia still refused. They still said, no, that $2 billion we gave you, we don't care about that. We have so much money, it doesn't matter. We don't need anything from you. All we want you to do is be nice to the Palestinians. That's what they kept saying. Now, when the false flag happened and then the subsequent genocide, well, you haven't seen anything from Saudi Arabia regarding any of this. I had a fucking hair stuck in my nose. That was weird. But that's the, that's how much bullshit this whole thing is. And you don't know about any of it. You don't know about bad guy land buying 42,000 slaves, supervised laborers, from Delhi, India in early of 2023. It's not like they had a surplus of workers or a surplus of work that they needed workers for. 38,000 of the Indian people were designated for construction work. The other 4,000 was earmarked for elderly care. That's all they were going to be allowed to do. They were trained in Delhi on how to, do the construction jobs that bad guy land wanted or how to take care of their elderly. That's it. They were purchased by bad guy land from the leaders of Delhi and they were shipped on over. And those were the jobs that the Palestinians were being forced to do. So what were they planning all the way back then? That they were going to bring in a labor force so that if something were to happen, there would be no disruption to their lives. And that's what you've seen. There hasn't been any sort of, bad guy land is now missing all these laborers and they're struggling. And no, because they had the Indians already ready to do it. And nobody talks about it. They purchased people. They call them supervised laborers so it sounds good, but they are slaves. They're not allowed to do anything else. They're not allowed to get other jobs. And they're treated extremely poorly. Did you remember when Bad Guy Land got mad? It was either about like the Koreans or some version of Asian, Japanese. I think it was the Koreans though. The Korean people by descent who lived in Bad Guy Land and whose families had been bad guys for years. They claimed to be bad guys. Well, they didn't want them in Bad Guy Land. So they offered to pay them, I think it was $1,200 to move, or $1,500 to move, and then $300 a month for the first year while they got settled wherever they decided to go. But they didn't want Korean or Filipino bad guys in their country. They didn't like those fake, it doesn't matter if they were generational. They were paying them to leave. All of it's there. It's all there for you. All you got to do is look. A lot of it's been scrubbed, that's for sure, or it's been buried very deep and you have to look for it. But there's more than plenty that's readily available, just like Team Jorge. All you got to do is look up Team Jorge. You can either look up the Wikipedia page, which summarizes it, leaves out a lot, but still summarizes it, or you can look up the multiple articles that came out about it. And then you need to ask yourself, this is a story basically acknowledging that Bad Guy Land controls social media. Why wasn't this picked up by all the big news stations? This is a story that basically exposed that Bad Guy Land tampered with the 2015-16 elections here. Why wasn't that exposed? 2016. Just like you're seeing the news now painting this picture that Iran is somehow the bad guy because Bad Guy Land attacked them and then they responded. They didn't even try to do some bullshit false flag like they did on October 7th. They just flat out attacked Iran, and then when Iran fought back, now Iran is out of... How dare they fight back? They should just give up before nothing is left, according to Trump. How many of you want that? How many of you want that Iran war? Send our American soldiers off to die in Iran for not for us. We get nothing out of it. It's just, how many of you know that this last election, your choices were, third-party candidate was Jill Stein. Don't think much needs to be said there. The Democratic was Kamala, who not only had a bad guy vice president, but has a bad guy husband as well. Or Trump, who Netanyahu said was the greatest friend to the bad guys that the bad guys and the bad guy people have ever known. Sounds like you had some real choices with that election, huh? And you knew it was going to be Trump, especially with the hindsight and knowing what they were planning on doing in October 7th and all that bullshit. It's as obvious as it can be. Trump's the one that signed the legislation. So while you were distracted by the idea that Kobe Bryant died, Kobe died on a Sunday. So Monday and Tuesday, that's all the news was talking about. The Wednesday was the day one of the Trump impeachments was said to be coming to an end. It was scheduled to come to an end. So Wednesday, the topic switched over to Trump, and then it was Trump, Kobe, Trump, Kobe. The Tuesday, under indictment, Netanyahu came to the United States and facilitated, as Trump signed the legislation, saying that all colleges and universities had to have the pro-bad guy curriculum and actively remove any BDS or anti-bad guy opinions. That legislation was signed all the way back then. And now it's coming into use. Now they're able to use it to their advantage. How do you guys not see this? I mean, I know a lot of you, well, the whole signing that legislation, I watched the news that day. The news didn't talk about that shit at all. You know who talked about it? The 700 Club. I'm glad that I still happened to be watching the 700 Club at that time. Because if I hadn't have been, I would have never known about that story. Isn't that strange? Isn't it strange how...
He won't play Kirby because he has to be Kirby.
Why are you yelling?
Sorry, he won't play Kirby because he has to be Kirby.
Isn't that what you want?
No, because I always have to be Kirby. Every Kirby game.
Okay. I'm sure you could work something out.
Can I please be Kirby first? I mean, but...
Nate, why aren't you answering? Why? Huh? Okay, well, you want to play Donkey Kong and he wants to play Kirby. So why isn't it a half hour of each? If he's going to play Donkey Kong with you, then you'll play Kirby with him, right? And he gets to be characters this time, right? Cool. Thank you. Can I borrow that? I mean, this is, it's all really obvious what's happening, and it's just gonna get worse. It's not like it's gonna just somehow get better, and then everything's just gonna go back to normal, and you know, all that other shit. There are people still walking around today with masks on, driving around in their own cars by themselves with masks on. There's a lasting impact from something even as fake and stupid as that was. You know, they flat out told us that masks don't work and that masks, you know, aren't effective with this, and then told us we have to wear masks. There was a guy who got in so much trouble because he saw this coming and bought up a whole bunch of hand sanitizer. And then was selling it to people at a profit. Something not necessary. It wasn't like you had to have hand sanitizer. It just fed into your delusion. But he got in trouble for being entrepreneurial. He was a bad guy because he was going to make extra money without the government getting its cut, and of course he wasn't chosen, so you can't do stuff like that unless you're chosen to do it. When do you guys see all this? And it's right there in front of you. It's not difficult. That's why you never see anybody actually arguing with anything I'm saying, because they can't. There's nothing that can be said. There's no way anybody can justify pedo stuff. There's no way anybody can justify genocide. There's no way anybody can justify the slavery or the accommodation of the cult. And they don't try because they know they can't. So, like with every video, don't forget to like, share, and sub. Go get your free download. It'll be in the description. www.the-bilderberg. BILDERBERG. If you're sick of your music perpetuating stereotypes and pushing stupidity, Fiend. Oh, Fiend is such a good song. Fiend. It's, oh my God. Such terrible shit. If you're tired of music that makes you stupid and music that doesn't encourage you to think, you know, then Go get the free download. www.the-bilderberg, bilderberg-group.com. It's free. All we ask is that you share it with someone. You can donate if you want to. When it asks you how much you want to pay, you could pay $15,000 if you wanted to. I'd be eternally grateful. But you don't have to. You don't even have to pay 15 cents. You just have to download it. And it's free. And you get the whole huge catalog. You get access to all of it. That's going to change soon. Believe me, that's going to change soon. We're going to start charging $5. But it's going to work out. Don't worry. We'll show you. We'll tell you all about it when it happens. You're also going to find a link to what I consider to be the most important film ever made, which is Hollywoodism. And I'm not saying that with hyperbole or any sort of exaggeration. Hollywoodism is the most important film ever made. The main reason being because it's not meant to be like a negative. It's not meant to expose the conspiracy. It's meant to brag about the conspiracy. They're so stupid they made a video bragging about the conspiracy. And it doesn't matter how good 200 proofs the earth isn't a spinning ball is. People can hide behind some sort of stereotype bullshit with that. Eric Dubay is a bad guy, blah, 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 whatever. When it comes to Hollywoodism, they're obviously bad guys. They brag about being bad guys. They just about that they did it, and they brag about it, and how they created the American dream in their image. And I'm gonna just dropped called "What Up, Doe." COVID Sauce and Donald Trump Hates America. The videos on Facebook. The links will be there to those two songs. If I'm not live here, I'm live there. But, it's just like with everything else. I'm giving you ammunition. We're giving you the free download because music is the most powerful weapon that we have. That's why they control it so much. They fucked up in the 60s when they accidentally gave all of these anti-establishment bands lucrative record contracts. And these were all, Jim Morrison was, his dad was the admiral on a ship used in the Gulf of Tonkin false flag. The Laurel Canyon conspiracy is a very interesting conspiracy, if you will. I highly suggest you look into it. It explains to you how the whole hippie movement was created to glorify and propagate pro-war. They created an undesirable character, the hippie. And if you were opposed to the war, you were a hippie. But if you were a good conservative person who went to work every day and all that, well, then you must support the war, right? Because you're not a dirty hippie. And they accidentally gave them too much power. And those people started speaking against all those kids who expanded their minds and saw the world and all that. They started realizing, holy shit, we're just pawns in this game. We need to start using our power for good. And the system didn't like that. And they started murdering people. Janis and Jimmy. And, imagine if Janis Joplin or Jimi Hendrix hadn't have been killed. And were allowed to be, continue on. Jimi Hendrix bridged white and black like nobody else. Jimi Hendrix was insane, and he was good, and all these things. And they killed him. Janis Joplin was a feminist leader before there were feminist leaders like that. And they killed her. They love killing off the superstar. Even Jim Morrison. Even though I don't think Morrison was killed off, I think he was just retired. His character was just retired. But the music is important. That's why they censor it. That's why the only shit we're allowed to see is the nigga, shoot, kill, nigga, bitches, hoes, shoot, drugs. These goddamn clowns. Fiend is such a terrible song. It's so terrible. But Travis Scott. And it's not really singing, it's more mumbles. Like, seriously, I'm going to play you the song after this, just so you can hear how fucking terrible it is. It says nothing, and that's what they want. Because they understand, like, you can not understand all of the words of the song, but you can look them up. And then once you realize what that song is actually about, you can get behind it, knowing that they're saying what you would be saying. So go get your free download. Go watch Hollywoodism, and just, if anything, go watch it and tell me how I'm wrong. The guy that has 13 likes and 5 viewers. Because that's how social media works, isn't it? You go tell me how I'm wrong. You go listen to the music and tell me how the music is terrible and bad and blah, blah, blah. You go do all those things. So that tomorrow, you can actually come at me with something other than this bullshit that you do now. Because this bullshit is silly. I know the comment section was shut off, for me at least, about an hour ago. But I can guarantee that 99% of the comments that came through, other than, the few people that are actually good people, they were just dumb nonsense. They were just dumb fucking nonsense. Just like all the comments that, came on when I could see the comments. So, go get the free download. Go watch Hollywoodism. Go like, share, and subscribe to the Facebook page. Don't forget to like, share, and sub here. And most importantly, the thing we always say, the thing I'm most proud of to say, pedophiles, kill yourself.